Let's start off with electric only. Just kidding, race start. Woo! This car is so fast when you're in race start mode. Holy macaroni. Over the past few months, we've tested quite a few Mercedes GLCs. We've done the previous generation GLC 300, we've done the 350e, we've also done the 43. But this is what you've all been waiting for. Welcome back to PR and Test Drive. Today we have the 2025 Mercedes-Benz AMG GLC 63S E-Performance. Very long name, but let's check it out. Now this 63 being the top dog on the lineup, of course, commands a hefty price tag. Starting MSRP is about 110,000 Canadian dollars. As tested, over 130 grand, and that's not even fully loaded. If you want, you can spec this out all the way to over 150 grand. Now you're paying a lot of money, but I think you're also getting quite a lot of car. A little disclaimer is that we're about to get very nerdy here, but the engineering on this thing is just fascinating, so bear with me. First thing I'd like to talk about is the hybrid system. As you know, this new generation GLC 63S is now a plug-in hybrid, and it employs a P3 hybrid layout instead of the more common P2 layout. A P2 layout refers to when the electric motor is sandwiched in between the engine and the transmission. This type of setup can be found in vehicles like the GLC 350e, the BMW 550e, or even the new M5. But a P3 setup refers to when the electric motor or the hybrid electric motor is located on the rear axle, acting independent to the engine itself. Obviously, it's a more complicated setup, but the electric motor doesn't need to accommodate for the engine and the engine transmission, which allows for more efficiency and also power all throughout the power band instead of just mainly torque filling. As for the engine, you're looking at the AMG hand-built M139L 2-liter inline-4. This engine originated from the A45s and the CLA45s in a transverse layout, but now has evolved to include a lot more tech. It's got a 48-volt belt-driven integrated starter generator, as well as, or more importantly, an electric turbo. What that means is between the hot side and the cold side of the turbo, it's got an electric motor that spins up to produce boost before the engine is able to produce enough exhaust gas or maximum amount of exhaust gas. Effectively, that significantly reduces turbo lag. And what that means is that AMG was able to put an even bigger turbo into this engine, even bigger than the one you find in the 43. That translates to 469 horsepower and 402 pound-feet of torque from a 2-liter engine. This is the most powerful production 2-liter 4-cylinder engine in the world. The engine is then connected to the AMG Speed Shift MCT 9-speed gearbox. MCT stands for multi-clutch transmission, and in this case, the multi-clutch pack is a wet-type clutch system, which replaces a traditional torque converter. But that's not all, because we've got a second transmission in the back over here, a 2-speed gearbox which is part of the electric drive unit. The electric drive unit also houses the electric motor as well as an electronically limited slip differential. The electric motor is able to continuously produce 107 horsepower as well as 201 horsepower for 10 seconds. The second gear for the electric motor kicks in when you reach 140 kilometers an hour, which means that it allows for maximum utilization of the electric motors all throughout the vehicle's speed range, and it does it effectively. All in all, you get a combined total output of 671 horsepower and 752 pound-feet of torque. Power is delivered to all four wheels via the 4MATIC Plus system. The 4MATIC Plus system is a fully variable system, which means that the engine power can go up to 100% to the rear wheels and up to 50% to the front wheels. On the other hand, the electric motor, even though it's located on the rear axle, electric power can also go up to the front wheels when necessary. As for the battery pack, it's a 6.1 kilowatt-hour battery pack with 4.9 that's usable. For plug-in hybrid, it's actually a tiny battery, but it's F1 technology, it's liquid cooled, it charges really quickly, and it's obviously designed for performance over range. Moving on to suspension, wheels, and tires, you've got a double wishbone setup in the front as well as a multi-link setup in the rear. These are coil spring setups with AMG ride control, so 3-stage adaptive damping. This vehicle is also equipped with the AMG active ride control, which effectively means 48-volt powered active anti-roll bars. They tighten up when you're turning and they loosen up when you're going straight. Additionally, the GLC 63S also comes standard with rear wheel steer, in this case up to 2.5 degrees. 19-inch rims come standard, but these are 21-inch forged alloy rims. They look super cool in my opinion, and the tires are also super beefy. Michelin Pilot Sport 4 SUVs, 265 wide in the front, 295 wide in the rear. And then you've got the brakes, 370mm rotors with a single piston floating caliper in the back, and 390mm rotor with a 6-piston caliper setup in the front. If you want even more expensive brakes, you can option for the carbon ceramics. Those will increase the disc size to 420mm in the front. Visually, the GLC 63S is pretty much identical to the GLC 43. The only real differences you'll find, aside from the badges of course, are these squared off quad exhaust tailpipes that are exclusive to the 63 series vehicles and the forged alloy rims that are not available on the 43. Opening up the trunk, you'll find a raised cargo floor because it has to accommodate for the battery pack underneath there. So cargo space is slightly worse compared to a regular gas model like the 43 or the 300. With that said, you still can of course fold down the rear seats using these buttons here if you want more space. Inside, this 63 is optioned with the two-tone black and gray Napa leather interior. It also has red stitching all around, which looks pretty cool. The front seats, you can swap them out for the AMG Performance bucket seats, but let me tell you what, these definitely are more comfortable. In terms of the standard equipment list, you get things like heated front seats, heated steering wheel, Burmester sound system, a panel sunroof, as well as, things like the ambient lighting. Those come standard. But if you want a head-up display, rear heated seats, or front cooled seats, those will be optional. Up front, we also have the carbon fiber trim, but unfortunately, the carbon fiber is only on the dash over there. It's not on here in the center. This is all just piano black. It would be great if AMG could put in the carbon fiber in the center here as well, because obviously when it comes to carbon fiber, the more the merrier. In terms of the two screens here, fundamentally they are the same as the ones in all the other GLCs, but on the 63 there are a few performance related apps. So for instance, you have the Performance AMG app, which shows you a digital IWC watch and stopwatch. You can see the engine power chart, you can see your energy flow chart, things like that. There's also the Track Pace app, which is an optional extra, and that includes things like tracking telemetry, tracking your drag race time, and it will also show you where you are on the track if you're on a racetrack. On the steering wheel front, the standard one comes in fully leather. This one is half suede, half leather. You can also get one that's half suede, half carbon fiber. Aside from my usual complaints with the touchpads not being that great, I think the steering wheel still looks great, and you've got these AMG drive unit control modules here. There's actually a lot of customizations and shortcuts that you can assign to these toggles, including things like your drive mode, your battery recuperation levels, your suspension damping settings, your engine sounds, engage boost mode, things like that. It's really quite cool. So I think it's time for us to put this to the test and go for a drive. So, this being a plug-in hybrid, let's start off in electric mode. Just kidding, race mode. Oh, race start was so fast. I mean, when you have all 671 horsepower being deployed with the boost mode and everything, this car gets to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.5 seconds. Do you know what that means? That means it's faster than a Ferrari Enzo. Yes, this family SUV is faster than a Ferrari with a V12 and an F1 gearbox. This thing is ridiculous. By the way, this has 1/3 the amount of cylinders and 1/3 the amount of displacement. Holy maple syrup. However, what about if you're not in boost mode? Technically, the electric motor is only able to continuously provide 107 horsepower of additional power instead of the 201 peak horsepower. So doesn't that mean that the car is only able to produce like 570 horsepower after the first 10 seconds? Let me know down in the comments below. When you're not doing race starts and you're just flooring it off the line, for example, let's try right now. This car has quite an interesting character. The electric power comes on instantly, but because unlike a typical turbo engine, this only reaches peak torque at 5250 RPM. And adding on to the fact that this has a very direct MCT gearbox, it does take time for the power to build up. Now, I wouldn't say by any means that this car is slow off the line, but in terms of performance, I think this is where the V8 had the upper hand with the low-end torque. Okay, of course, this powertrain is impressive from an engineering perspective. This is basically a marvel, but as a car enthusiast, I think I would have been happy, if not happier, with a less powerful V8. And if not for the emissions regulations, I think Mercedes would have also kept that V8. However, what I found most impressive about this car is actually not the powertrain, not the engineering of the powertrain, it's actually the handling. Yes, handling. It doesn't even feel right saying the words good handling with 2300 kilo family SUV in the same sentence, but here we are, because this thing is super impressive when it comes to handling. We're coming up to some turns now, so let me just show you. There's like no body roll, like at all. I feel the car shifting left to right and right to left when turning, but there's like no body roll. Oh my goodness. How is it even possible? As you probably saw there, there's like no body roll at all when you're turning into the corners. Those e-active roll stabilizers are literally doing some type of black magic here, because my goodness. And paired with these super beefy tires, you've got grip for days. It doesn't feel like it's a 2300 kilo vehicle at all. It feels way lighter than that. I am very, very impressed. The brakes also feel quite natural, and of course they're very strong with the 6-piston brakes up front, so no complaints there. Despite the inline-4 or this exhaust being very aggressive, and you heard the pops and bangs just now, it's still quite fun. There is the downside to the downsize, pun intended. Ultimately, the M177 V8 just sounded better. It had a V8 roar, it had the German muscle, it just feels more involving. This is a little less emotions, I think, with this 2-liter. Now, of course, as I mentioned, it's still most definitely very aggressive, and I think if you're coming into a 63 without having experienced the V8, you'll be pretty happy with this engine. But frankly, in my opinion, a lot of the engine sounds, the tone, feels a little synthetic. It's very obvious that there's some portions to it that's pumped in. And so I just feel like it's not the same. The V8 is irreplaceable. Anyway, let's talk about some other drive modes. In comfort mode, we switched into comfort mode right now. In comfort mode, this actually drives better than the GLC 43. Basically, the car will behave as if it's a normal hybrid vehicle. It'll start moving with just the electric power, and then depending on the battery level and the throttle application, the engine will turn on accordingly. This completely mitigates the jerkiness I found with the 43 with that MCT. Despite having the same transmission, the handover portion, the start off, is just so much smoother in my opinion. The ride feels very similar to the 43, which means it's still very firm. It's quite bumpy occasionally, but because this is a full-fledged 63, it's getting a full pardon from me. You do also have EV mode, and I was able to do 10 kilometers of fully electric range in one charge. Basically, once you reach below 25% battery level, the engine will turn on. It's sort of the built-in reserve there, you just can see it. The EV range isn't all that useful. 10 kilometers, you can't really do much with it, but if you're going short distances, like you're just moving your cars around, you're going to the park down the street, this could come in handy because you don't have to heat cycle the engine. If you charge it at a 110 socket, it'll take about 5 hours to fully recharge from 25% because you really can't go under 25. The engine will turn on regardless. But even if you don't charge it at all, that's completely fine because depending on your drive modes, the engine will recharge the battery for maximum performance. As for efficiency, don't expect that because this engine is now half the size with half the cylinder, you get good fuel economy. You don't. As a matter of fact, compared to the previous generation GLC 63S, this is rated for worse on the highway than that. In the old generation, it's rated for 10.9 liters on the highway, but this, 11.4. Now, in reality, I was able to get it to lower than 11.4, somewhere between 9 and 10. But still, I mean, come on, that's really interesting, actually. In a city, this is rated for 12.3 liters per 100 kilometers, but realistically, if you're driving it like you're meant to, it's easily over 15. When it comes to safety tech, this tester does have the driver assistance package that I was raving about, and all of those features work very well. I mean, adaptive cruise control, lane centering, blind spot warning, auto lane change, those kind of things, they all just work, so no complaints there. For me, this is a must-have package on a Mercedes. To wrap this up, if you ask me whether if this GLC 63 SE performance is too complicated, I would say yes. It definitely took some studying to understand all of the nitty-gritties about this car. And I'm also not too sure about the reliability front because The engine feels quite strung out, and also there's just so many components that could go wrong. I mean, you have two transmissions, one for the engine and one for the electric motor. But if you ask me if I think the 63S is worth the $27,000 premium, I would say yes, because of course it offers more performance, but it also offers more comfort somehow. This car is able to address the few concerns that I had with the 43, which is the brakes and the gearbox. It's just not jerky off the line, and the brakes feel quite natural. So this is a better car in my opinion all around. Like, you're not sacrificing anything for being a 63. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this new generation GLC 63. What you think about this inline 4 as a replacement for the V8, and do you think that the V8 is going to make a comeback? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.